A childhood in the village. There was once a boy named David who lived in a quiet village surrounded by rice fields, winding dirt roads, and the sound of crickets that sang every night. His house was simple, built with red bricks and a roof covered in old tiles, standing at the edge of the village near a small bamboo grove. David was only 10 years old, but his days were already filled with the rhythm of both school and the countryside. Every morning, before the sun climbed high, the rooster crowed loudly from his family's backyard. David would wake up to that sound, rub his sleepy eyes, and listen to his mother calling him from the kitchen. The smell of warm rice and salted fish filled the small house. After a quick breakfast, he put on his faded white school shirt, which was slightly too big for him, and slung his old canvas bag over his shoulder. His father had patched the bag many times, but David loved it because it carried his notebooks and pencils, his little world of learning. The path to school was not paved but dusty and narrow, stretching between green rice paddies. Sometimes, in the early morning, a light mist hung low above the fields, and the dew sparkled on the tips of the rice plants. David often walked barefoot, his sandals dangling from his hand, because he liked the cool touch of the earth on his feet. Along the way, he would meet his friends, other village children carrying their own bags and laughing about silly things. School in the village was modest. The classrooms had old wooden desks, and the blackboards were scratched from years of chalk writing. Teachers were strict but kind, and David enjoyed learning, even though sometimes his thoughts wandered to the fields outside. By noon, the bell rang, and the children were released. Some of them hurried home, but David always took his time walking back. He would stop to watch buffaloes grazing or dragonflies dancing above the small streams. At home, after a simple lunch with his parents and younger sister, David changed into an old t-shirt and a pair of shorts. It was time for his afternoon chore, herding the family's 2 cows. He carried a stick taller than himself and led the cows slowly down the dirt path to the meadow by the river. The meadow was wide and green, and the air smelled of wildflowers and fresh grass. David liked this part of the day. While the cows munched lazily, he would lie on the grass and watch the sky. Sometimes he carved little boats from banana leaves and let them float on the water. Other times, he just listened to the songs of birds or the distant sound of farmers calling each other across the fields. His friends were there too. Many village children had the same job, herding cows and goats. Together, they played games, made up stories, or raced barefoot across the fields. The afternoons passed gently, like a river flowing without hurry. When the sun began to set and the sky turned orange, David led the cows home. But before the day ended, there was always one more thing he looked forward to: football. The village had a wide, dusty yard under a big banyan tree. That was their stadium. As soon as the animals were tied in their barns and their chores finished, the children gathered there. Some wore shoes, some didn't. Their ball was old and patched, but to them, it was treasure. They divided into teams and played with all their energy. Dust rose under their feet. Laughter filled the air, and the sound of children shouting echoed across the quiet village. David was always happiest when he played football. He wasn't the fastest runner, but he had endless energy and a bright smile that never left his face. For him, scoring a goal wasn't as important as running together with his friends, falling, laughing, and getting back up again. By the time the sky grew dark and the first stars appeared, the game was over. The children, sweaty and covered in dust, went home for dinner. David's mother always scolded him for being too dirty, but she would smile as she served him rice and soup. Yet, even after dinner, the day wasn't finished. On nights when the moon rose high and bright, David and the other children would gather again. They ran along the village paths, played hide and seek among the bamboo groves, or simply lay on the grass looking up at the silver sky. The moonlight made the fields glow softly, and the night air carried the smell of earth and flowers. Sometimes, they chased fireflies, catching them in their hands and letting them go again. In those moments, the world felt magical. The village was small. The children had no toys except what they created themselves. But they were rich in joy. They did not think about tomorrow or the future. They did not wonder what life would be like when they grew older. For David, every day was complete, filled with school, work, play, And laughter. He had no plans, no dreams of becoming someone important. The future was like a faraway cloud that he never tried to reach. All he knew was that today was beautiful. And tomorrow would be another day of the same beauty. His life was simple, but it was full of light. David's childhood was like a song sung by the fields, the rivers, and the moon, a song of mornings filled with the sound of roosters, afternoons of cows grazing, evenings of football, and nights of chasing shadows under the stars. It was a song without worry, without sorrow, only pure happiness. Years later, when people asked him about his childhood, he would smile. He might not remember every detail of his lessons at school, or every football match, or every night of laughter under the moon. But he would always remember the feeling, that wonderful, unshakable feeling of freedom and peace, of belonging to a place where time moved slowly and every day felt like a gift. That was David's world, a small boy in a small village, living days that seemed ordinary but were, in truth, extraordinary, because they were filled with the simple joy of being alive, surrounded by friends, family, and the endless beauty of the countryside. And so, his story was not about ambition or dreams of the future, but about the treasure of the present, a childhood untouched by worry, bathed in sunshine by day and silver moonlight by night, a childhood that would stay in his heart forever.